Now I want to introduce you to another remarkable Catholic priest. Father Joseph Mallin's own life is in itself fascinating. He spent over 60 years as a Jesuit missionary in the Far East, from the early days of Chairman Mao to the handover of Hong Kong and beyond. But as he told us last summer during a brief visit home, the idea of becoming a priest was first put into his head 94 years ago by his own father, the 1916 revolutionary Michael Mallin.
Well, I was born during Larkin strike. That's what was always said, 13th of September, 1913. My first memory begins, I suppose, I think, in 1916. I once saw Michael Collins. To me, he'd been a name, of course, in Dublin, marching down O'Connell Street. And O'Connell Street was in ruins.
After more than 60 years as a missionary priest in China and Hong Kong, Father Joseph Mallin is returning to the place where his life journey began. In May 1916, at just 2 years of age, he was brought here to Kilmainham jail to see his father, Michael Mallin, for the very last time. Socialist Michael Mallin was second in command of the Irish Citizen Army under its leader James Connolly, and one of 15 leaders executed after the Easter Rising.
My father wanted to see me, so my mother brought me here. I was put on these steps with my sister before being brought up to my father. While I was on the steps here, my sister told me that one of the soldiers came over and said that he was sorry for me. My father, I think, was rather quiet, but very thoughtful about the political things and the state the Ireland was in. And he was determined to do something about it for the good of the people, for the good of the country. He would follow what he thought was right and just, no matter what the consequences were. The right and the just dominated his thoughts, and he must strive always for that, for those who needed help. And for that he was ready to oppose all the military and the police when they came into conflict with that. And so I can only come away with the highest regard from him. My mother did not speak to me much about my father. I suppose she was very wise in her ways. I did not want to take away from my childhood by brooding on these things. How cool she was in an emergency when we were raided there. I suppose because I and my sister were in the room and the British soldiers were there, that she was thinking of us, and so showed steadiness, calmness. When my father was in the prison cell, he spoke of the coldness in the air. I don't think it was the cold, but I think what at the back of his mind was he was leaving a family destitute for and one to come.
Michael Mallin's vision for his own life was at an end, but in a letter written in his death cell, he shared plans for his family that would shape all their lives.
God and his Blessed Mother, again and again bless and protect you, O Saviour of man. If my dear ones could die and enter heaven with me, how blessed and happy I would be. They would be away from the cares and trials of the world. Una, my little one, be a nun. Joseph, my little man, be a priest if you can. James and John, to you the care of your mother. Make yourselves good, strong men for her sake. And remember, Ireland, good, by my wife and darling. Remember me. God again bless and protect you and our children. I must now prepare. These last few hours must be spent with God alone. Your loving husband, Michael Mallin, Commandant, Stephen's Green Command. In his last letter to my mother, my father said he wished that, if possible, I could become a priest. That, of course, was often mentioned to me by others later, but I didn't think about it much. I just took it that I should go on, but my mother never mentioned it, all right. It was left completely free to myself, and I always felt that I should. That was what was not the thing I'd like to do, what I should do.
What Yeats called the terrible beauty of the 1916 armed rising may seem to conflict with Father Mallin's own lifelong commitment to peace and justice, but that's not how he sees it.
These men, they were out to bring justice and freedom. And that is based on something very deep. And at the bottom is religion. Some came from well-off and higher-class people. Others came from poverty. They all wanted justice and right. And as a great theologian has put it, if the striving for justice and right for others at your own, which you have to sacrifice things in your life, that's 1,000 times better than talking, if you like, about it. It's the action shows what you fully believe. You express your inner, deepest thoughts in your actions. And they were ready to give up all in order to make it possible for others to live their lives not in poverty and oppression under the wealthy and the powerful.
94 years after the Easter Rising, Father Mallin believes the self-sacrifice of his father's generation is sometimes hard to find.
Those who have become rich seem to have forgotten that, as the Chinese say, 天下為公, which means we have to share with others, and it's not just for ourselves alone. I'd say a certain amount of that seems to be lost.